My marriage was about as stable as a Jenga tower in an earthquake, and I was the idiot still pretending the whole thing wasn't about to come crashing down. The first sign should have been when Taryn started going to yoga 3 nights a week. My wife, who once complained that walking to the mailbox was too much exercise, suddenly discovered her inner zen at 35. She bought expensive yoga pants, a premium mat, and started talking about chakras and finding her center. The only thing she was centering, apparently, was herself on some other guy. Before we dive deeper into this story, I have one small request. Please subscribe, drop a like, comment, and hit that hype button to boost this channel so more people can discover these incredible Reddit stories. I'm Jared Whitby, logistics coordinator for a mid-sized shipping company, which means I spend my days tracking packages and my nights wondering where my life went wrong. At 37, I thought I had it figured out. Decent job, nice house in suburbia, wife who at least pretended to love me. Turns out I was tracking everything except what mattered most. The second sign was the giggling. Taryn would get text messages and burst into these little schoolgirl giggles, the kind she used to make when we first started dating. Except now she'd flip her phone face down the second I walked into the room, like she was protecting state secrets instead of whatever Ryan from yoga was sending her. Yeah, Ryan from yoga. I knew his name because she mentioned him constantly. Ryan says this pose is great for flexibility. Ryan thinks I'm making real progress. Ryan has the most amazing technique. I bet he did. The third sign was the mileage on her car. I'm a logistics guy. I notice numbers. Her Tuesday and Thursday yoga classes were supposedly at the studio 15 minutes away, so why was she putting 40 extra miles on her car each time? Unless they were doing yoga in the next county, something didn't add up. But the final confirmation came during her mother's birthday dinner, and it was spectacular in the worst possible way. Mira, my mother-in-law, had requested a nice family gathering for her 55th birthday. Taryn, being the dutiful daughter and school counselor who loved organizing things, invited 8 people to our house. There was Mira, of course, plus Taryn's sister Beth, and her husband, our neighbors the Johnsons, and Taryn's best friend Alyssa with her boyfriend Marcus. I'd spent the afternoon setting up our living room, connecting my laptop to our new 65-inch smart TV so we could show a slideshow of Mira's photos. The irony wasn't lost on me later. I literally set up the stage for my own humiliation. Dinner was going well. Or as well as any dinner can go when you're silently wondering if your wife is screwing her yoga instructor. Mira was telling stories about Taryn's childhood, Beth was complaining about her job, and I was refilling wine glasses and playing the perfect host. That's when Taryn's phone buzzed. She glanced at it and smiled that secret smile I'd grown to hate. But instead of flipping it face down like usual, she got distracted by Mira asking about dessert. The phone was still connected to our home Wi-Fi, and our smart TV was still linked to the family cloud account. What happened next was like watching a car accident in slow motion, if car accidents could destroy marriages and make your mother-in-law choke on her wine. The TV screen suddenly lit up with a notification. New message from Ryan from yoga. Everyone looked up at the giant screen just as the message appeared in full view. Last night was incredible. I can't stop thinking about how you felt in my hands. When can we do it again? The room went silent. Mira's fork clinked against her plate. Beth's mouth fell open. The Johnsons looked like they wanted to crawl under the table, but it got worse. Another message popped up before anyone could react. Your husband seems completely clueless. Tomorrow at my place, I'll make sure we have plenty of time to work on your flexibility. Taryn lunged for her phone, but I was faster. Years of catching packages thrown by careless delivery drivers had given me decent reflexes. No, I said, my voice eerily calm. Don't stop the show now. This is just getting interesting. I picked up the TV remote and turned the volume up. Hey everyone, looks like we're getting a live feed from Taryn's secret life. Should we see what else Ryan from yoga has been teaching my wife? Taryn's face went white. Jared, please, it's not what it looks like. Really? I scrolled through the message history that was now displaying on our wall-mounted big screen. Because it looks like you've been getting very personal yoga lessons. Oh, here's a good one from last Tuesday. I love how you moan when I hit that perfect spot. That's some advanced yoga terminology right there. Mira made a strangled noise. Alyssa was staring at her wine glass like it might offer an escape route. Marcus cleared his throat and mumbled something about checking on his car. But I wasn't done. 3 months of suspicion, 3 months of being treated like an idiot, 3 months of yoga classes. It all came pouring out. Oh, and here's my personal favorite, I continued reading from the screen. From yesterday. I can't wait to leave Jared. He's so boring in bed. With you, I finally know what I've been missing. Well, honey, now I know what I've been missing too. A faithful wife. Taryn was crying now, mascara running down her cheeks. Jared, stop. We can talk about this privately. Privately? I laughed, but there was no humor in it. You mean like how you privately decided to screw your yoga instructor? Like how you privately planned to leave me? Sorry, but I think privacy went out the window when you decided to broadcast your affair to our smart TV. The messages kept coming, each one worse than the last. Ryan detailing what he wanted to do to my wife, Taryn responding with enthusiasm I hadn't seen from her in years, plans for their future together, jokes about how stupid and boring I was. Beth finally found her voice. Taryn, what the hell is wrong with you? But Taryn was beyond answering. She grabbed her purse and ran for the door, leaving behind a room full of shocked family and friends, a ruined birthday dinner, and a husband who was just getting started with his revenge. As the front door slammed, I looked around at the stunned faces staring back at me. Well, I said, raising my wine glass. Happy birthday, Mira. Sorry the entertainment wasn't what you expected. The TV pinged with another message from Ryan. Can't wait to celebrate when you finally dump that loser husband of yours. I smiled for the first time in months. Oh, Ryan from yoga, I said to the screen. You have no idea what you just started. The next morning, I woke up with the kind of clarity that comes after a bomb goes off in your life. Taryn hadn't come home, which saved us both the awkwardness of sharing a bed after she'd publicly destroyed our marriage on our living room wall. I made coffee, sat at my kitchen table, and opened my laptop. Time to find out exactly how deep this rabbit hole went. See, there's one thing about being married to someone for 8 years, you learn their passwords. Taryn used the same combination for everything. Our anniversary date plus her maiden name. Not very creative for a school counselor, but perfect for a husband about to become a forensic accountant of infidelity. Her cloud backup was a goldmine of betrayal. Months of messages, photos I definitely didn't want to see, and detailed plans for their future together. But the real kicker was a folder labeled Exit Strategy, because apparently my wife was organized about destroying our marriage. Inside were draft emails to divorce attorneys, screenshots of our financial accounts, and a list titled Things to Document About Jared's Behavior. She was building a case for emotional abuse, claiming I was controlling and manipulative. The irony was thick enough to cut with a knife, but two could play the documentation game, and I had a logistics background. I knew how to track and organize evidence. First stop, our joint bank accounts. I moved our shared savings into a separate account under my name only. Perfectly legal since my name was on everything, but it would definitely get her attention. Then I downloaded every bank statement, credit card bill, and financial record from the past year. Amazing how many yoga sessions were actually dinner dates and hotel visits. Second stop, my attorney. Jim Morrison, yes, like the singer, had handled our house purchase and would now handle my wife's departure from my life. I emailed him everything. The messages, the photos, the financial records, and especially that exit strategy folder. Third stop, Ryan's fiancée. It took exactly 30 seconds of Facebook stalking to find Sophie Chen, a sweet-looking insurance adjuster who had no idea her future husband was adjusting more than policies. Her profile was full of wedding planning posts and photos of her engagement ring. Poor girl was planning a future with a man who was already planning a future with my wife. I crafted a careful email. Hi, Sophie. I'm Jared Whitby, Taryn's husband. I think there are some things about Ryan you should know before your wedding. I'm attaching screenshots of his conversations with my wife. I'm sorry you have to find out this way. Then I attached everything, every dirty message, every plan they made, every joke at our expense. I hit send and felt the first real satisfaction I'd experienced in months. Fourth stop, Taryn's workplace. Principal Ray Martinez ran Roosevelt Elementary with an iron fist and a zero-tolerance policy for anything that might damage the school's reputation. A school counselor having an affair with a parent's yoga instructor during work hours? That would definitely damage the school's reputation. I sent a professional email explaining the situation and attached time-stamped evidence showing that many of their conversations happened during school hours using school Wi-Fi. I even included a photo Taryn had sent Ryan from her office, where the school calendar was clearly visible in the background. By lunchtime, I'd systematically dismantled the life my wife thought she was going to have, but I wasn't done yet. My phone rang around 2 p.m. It was Eli, my coworker, and the closest thing I had to a best friend. Dude, what the hell happened last night? Beth called my girlfriend and said your dinner party turned into Jerry Springer. I filled him in on the details while driving to Ryan's apartment complex. Yes, I knew where he lived. Yes, I'd looked it up. And yes, I was about to pay him a visit. Are you sure this is a good idea? Eli asked when I told him my plan. Probably not, I admitted, pulling into the parking lot of Ryan's complex. But neither was my wife screwing her yoga instructor, so we're all making questionable choices today. Ryan lived in one of those trendy apartment complexes that charge premium rent for amenities like a yoga studio and smoothie bar. Of course he did. I found his apartment number and knocked on the door. He answered wearing nothing but shorts and a tank top that showed off the muscles my wife apparently found so irresistible. He was younger than me, fitter than me, and had that smug confidence that comes from stealing other men's wives. "Can I help you?" he asked, though his expression suggested he already knew who I was. "Ryan from yoga, right? I'm Jared from marriage. You know, the boring husband you've been hearing so much about." His face went pale. "Look, man, I think there's been a misunderstanding." "Oh, there's been a misunderstanding, all right. You misunderstood what would happen if I found out about you and my wife." I stepped closer, using every inch of my 6-foot frame to loom over him. "You also misunderstood how much evidence you were creating with all those text messages." "I don't want any trouble," he said, backing into his apartment. I followed him inside. "Too late for that, Ryan. You created trouble the moment you decided my wife was your personal yoga mat." I looked around his apartment, minimalist furniture, inspirational posters about mindfulness and inner peace, and a framed photo of him with Sophie at what looked like a romantic dinner. "Nice picture," I said, picking it up. "Sophie seems lovely. I wonder what she'll think about your extracurricular activities." "You contacted Sophie?" His voice cracked. "Oh, I did more than contact her. I sent her every dirty message you sent my wife. Every photo, every plan, every joke about how stupid I am." I set the photo down carefully. "Speaking of stupid, you want to know what's really stupid? Leaving a digital trail of your affair like breadcrumbs for the husband to follow." Ryan's phone buzzed. He glanced at it and his face went even paler. "Let me guess," I said. "That's Sophie, isn't it? Or maybe it's your yoga studio, wondering why parents are asking if their instructor is available for private sessions with married women?" His hands were shaking now. "What do you want?" "What do I want?" I laughed, but it wasn't a pleasant sound. "I want my wife to not be a cheating whore. I want to not have been humiliated in front of my family. I want to go back to 3 months ago when I was just a boring husband instead of a public laughingstock. But since I can't have any of that, I'll settle for making sure you understand the consequences of your choices." I walked over to his kitchen counter where his car keys were sitting next to his wallet. "Nice Audi in the parking lot. The silver one, right? License plate says Yoga 1. Very subtle." "Don't touch my car," he said, but there was no authority in his voice. "Or what? You'll call the police? And tell them what, exactly? That the husband of the woman you're screwing is being mean to you?" I picked up his keys and examined them. "You know what I learned in logistics, Ryan. Everything has consequences. Every action creates a reaction. Every package that gets mishandled creates a claim. Every marriage that gets destroyed creates a very angry husband." I pocketed his keys. "I'm going to go have a conversation with your car now. When I'm done, you're going to call my wife and tell her this little affair is over. You're going to tell her you made a mistake, that you love Sophie, and that she should work things out with her boring husband. Are we clear?" He nodded frantically. "Good. Oh, and Ryan, if I see you within a mile of my wife, my house, or my life, I'll make sure the video of you crying right now gets posted to every yoga forum on the internet. Namaste, asshole." I left him standing in his apartment and went to find his precious Audi. It really was a beautiful car. Silver, spotless, with custom rims and a sound system that probably cost more than I made in a month. Too bad about what was going to happen to it. I keyed a message into the paint on the driver's side. Home wrecker. Then I found the protein shake in his cup holder, some green superfood nonsense, and poured it through his air vents. The smell would be impossible to get out. For the final touch, I took a photo of the damage and texted it to the number I'd memorized from Taryn's phone. "Your yoga boy's car looks like his relationship status. Damaged. Stay away from my wife." As I drove home, my phone exploded with notifications. Sophie had apparently shared Ryan's messages with her friends. Taryn's principal had called an emergency meeting. My mother-in-law was blowing up my phone with questions. But the best notification came from Jim Morrison, my attorney. "Got your evidence package. This is the most clear-cut adultery case I've seen in 20 years. We're going to destroy her in court." I smiled as I pulled into my driveway. The Jenga tower of my marriage had finally collapsed, but I was going to make sure I wasn't the only one buried in the rubble. My phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. "This is Ryan. It's over between me and Taryn. Please leave me alone." I texted back, "Smart boy. Now go apologize to Sophie and pray she's more forgiving than I am." The real fun was just getting started. The next morning brought the kind of chaos that makes you grateful for strong coffee and stronger resolve. My phone had been buzzing all night with calls and texts from numbers I didn't recognize, friends I hadn't heard from in years, and family members who suddenly had very strong opinions about my marriage. The first call came from Beth, Taryn's sister, at 6:47 a.m. "Jared, what the hell did you do?" she demanded without even saying hello. "Good morning to you too, Beth. I exposed your sister's affair. You were there, remember? Front row seat to the shit show. I mean, after that. Ryan's car, his job, Sophie's meltdown on Facebook. This is insane. Insane was your sister screwing her yoga instructor while planning to divorce me for emotional abuse. I'm just evening the playing field. She's staying with me, and she's devastated. Good. She should be devastated. She destroyed an 8-year marriage for some asshole with flexibility issues." Beth hung up on me, but I was already getting another call. This one from Mira, my soon-to-be ex-mother-in-law. "Jared, honey, I know you're hurt, but this has gone too far." "Has it, Mira? Because from where I'm sitting, it hasn't gone nearly far enough." "She made a mistake. People make mistakes. You don't have to destroy her entire life over it. I didn't destroy her life. She did that all by herself when she decided to make a fool out of me. I'm just making sure everyone knows exactly who they're dealing with. The whole neighborhood is talking about it. Mrs. Patterson from down the street called me this morning asking if it was true that Taryn was having an affair. It's humiliating." "You're right, it is humiliating. I've been humiliated for months while your daughter pretended to go to yoga classes so she could screw another man. Now it's her turn." But the call that really made my day came from Principal Martinez at Roosevelt Elementary. "Mr. Whitby, I need to discuss the situation with your wife." "Ex-wife, hopefully soon. What about the situation?" "We've suspended Mrs. Whitby pending a full investigation. The evidence you provided shows clear violations of our professional conduct policy. Using school resources and time for personal relationships is grounds for termination." "I'm sorry to hear that," I lied. "Taryn always took her job very seriously." Apparently not seriously enough. We've also had several parents call asking about the appropriateness of having a counselor who can't manage her own personal relationships advising their children. That does seem like a conflict of interest. Indeed, I want you to know that the school board will be reviewing this matter at tomorrow night's meeting. If you have any additional information that might be relevant to our decision, please don't hesitate to contact me. Actually, Principal Martinez, I do have some additional information. It seems my wife and her yoga instructor weren't just having an affair. They were planning to frame me for emotional abuse to help her divorce case. I have emails and documents showing the whole scheme. I'd be happy to share them with the board. There was a long pause. "Please send everything to my office immediately. This is even more serious than I thought." After I hung up, I spent the morning organizing the evidence into a presentation that would make PowerPoint proud. Screenshots of messages, financial records showing hotel charges and restaurant bills, and the crown jewel, Taryn's exit strategy folder with her plans to destroy my reputation. But the real entertainment came from social media. Sophie, Ryan's now ex-fiancée, had apparently decided to go nuclear on Facebook. She'd posted screenshots of every message I'd sent her, along with her own commentary. "Ladies, this is Ryan Maddox, my ex-fiancé. He's been cheating on me with a married woman while planning our wedding. He's a yoga instructor at ZenFlow Studio and apparently specializes in positions that aren't in any yoga manual. Consider this your public service announcement. Stay away from this lying piece of garbage." The post had over 200 comments and was being shared faster than a viral cat video. Women were coming out of the woodwork with their own Ryan stories. Apparently, my wife wasn't his first married conquest. Around noon, I decided to drive by ZenFlow Studio just to see how Ryan's career was progressing. The parking lot was nearly empty, and there was a handwritten sign on the door. "Ryan Maddox is no longer employed at this facility. All classes have been canceled until further notice." I was admiring the sign when my phone rang. It was Alyssa, Taryn's best friend and the woman who'd sat at my dinner table while knowing about the affair. "Jared, you need to stop this." "Stop what, Alyssa? Telling the truth?" "You're ruining her life. She lost her job, she's getting serious threats on social media, and Ryan won't even talk to her anymore." Funny how consequences work, isn't it? Actions have reactions. Betrayal has repercussions. Adultery has aftermath. She's my best friend. I can't stand to see her like this. Then you should have been a better friend and told her not to cheat on her husband. Or better yet, you should have told me what was going on instead of sitting at my table eating my food while knowing my wife was screwing another man. I couldn't betray her trust. But you could betray mine? Interesting moral compass you have there, Alyssa. Look, I have something that might help both of you work this out. That got my attention. What kind of something? Meet me at the coffee shop on 5th Street. 1 hour. I almost said no, but curiosity got the better of me. Plus, I wanted to look Alyssa in the eye and ask her how she could sit through that birthday dinner knowing what was about to happen. The coffee shop was crowded with the lunch rush, but I spotted Alyssa immediately. She looked terrible, dark circles under her eyes, hair unwashed, wearing the same clothes she'd worn to the dinner party 2 days ago. "You look like hell," I said, sitting down across from her. "Thanks. You look pretty good for someone whose life just exploded." "My life didn't explode. My marriage did. There's a difference." I signaled the waitress for coffee. "What did you want to tell me?" Alyssa pulled out her phone and set it on the table between us. "I recorded some conversations with Taryn, things she said about you, about Ryan, about her plans." "Why would you do that?" "Because I knew this was going to end badly, and I wanted to protect myself. Taryn can be vindictive when things don't go her way." "And you're just realizing this now?" "I've known it for years, but she's been my friend since college, and I thought loyalty meant supporting her no matter what." She touched her phone screen. "I was wrong." "What's on the recordings?" "Everything. Her real feelings about you, her plans to take you for everything in the divorce, her backup plan if Ryan didn't leave Sophie." Alyssa looked up at me with red-rimmed eyes. "She called you pathetic, Jared. She said you were so boring and predictable that she could cheat on you for years and you'd never figure it out." And my coffee cup stopped halfway to my mouth. "Years?" "Ryan wasn't the first. He was just the one she thought she could have a future with." The coffee shop suddenly felt too hot, too crowded, too small. "How many others?" "I don't know exact numbers, but she's been having affairs since your 3rd year of marriage. She said marriage was like a prison sentence, and she deserved to have some fun on the side." I set my cup down carefully, afraid I might throw it otherwise. "And you knew about all of this?" "Not all of it, but enough." Alyssa slid her phone across the table. "Listen to the recordings. Then decide what you want to do with them." I picked up the phone and scrolled through the audio files. There were dozens of them, dating back months. "Why are you giving these to me?" "Because yesterday she called me and asked me to lie for her. She wants me to tell people that you were abusive, that you controlled her money and isolated her from friends. She wants me to say that the affair was her way of escaping an abusive marriage." "And what did you tell her?" "I told her I couldn't do it. That's when she said if I wasn't going to help her, I was against her. She said she'd make sure everyone knew I was complicit in hiding the affair from you." Alyssa's voice broke. 20 years of friendship, and she threw it away because I wouldn't help her destroy you." I pocketed her phone. "Thank you for this." "There's something else. She's planning to show up at your work tomorrow. She wants to make a scene, get you fired, or at least damage your reputation. She thinks if she can make you look unstable, it will help her divorce case." "Well," I said, standing up and leaving money on the table, "I guess I better make sure I'm ready for her." As I walked back to my car, I felt something I hadn't experienced in years. Complete and total clarity about what I needed to do. Taryn wanted to play games? Fine. But she was about to learn that I'd been holding back, and her boring, predictable husband was full of surprises. I spent the rest of the afternoon listening to Alyssa's recordings and planning my next move. By evening, I had a strategy that would make Sherman's march to the sea look like a casual stroll. Taryn thought she knew me. She thought I was weak, boring, and predictable. She was about to find out how wrong she was. The school board meeting was standing room only, which was unusual for a Tuesday night in our sleepy suburban district. Word had apparently gotten out that there was going to be some drama, and people loved a good scandal almost as much as they loved pretending to be outraged by it. I arrived early and took a seat in the front row, my laptop bag full of evidence and a presentation that would make Taryn's professional life as lifeless as our marriage. Principal Martinez had invited me to address the board about my wife's conduct, and I'd spent all day preparing what I privately called the nuclear option. Taryn walked in just as the meeting was called to order. She'd cleaned herself up since the dinner party disaster. Professional blazer, hair pulled back, the kind of composed look she used when dealing with difficult parents. But I could see the panic in her eyes when she spotted me in the front row. She took a seat in the back, flanked by Beth and a woman I didn't recognize who was probably her attorney. Good. She'd need one. "The first item on tonight's agenda," announced Board President Mrs. Coleman, "is the matter of professional conduct involving Roosevelt Elementary Counselor Taryn Whitby. Mr. Whitby, you've requested to address the board." I stood up and connected my laptop to the projection system. "Thank you, Mrs. Coleman. I have some information that I believe is relevant to your decision about my wife's employment." The first slide was a timeline showing dates and times of text messages between Taryn and Ryan, cross-referenced with her work schedule. As you can see, Mrs. Whitby was conducting a personal relationship during school hours, using school resources, while she was supposed to be counseling students. Murmurs rippled through the crowd. I clicked to the next slide. This is a photo my wife sent to her boyfriend from her office at Roosevelt Elementary. You can see the school calendar in the background, and the timestamp shows it was taken during her scheduled counseling sessions. The photo was one of the tamer ones, but it was clearly inappropriate for a workplace. More murmurs, louder this time. But the real issue, I continued, clicking to the next slide, isn't just the affair, it's the pattern of deception and manipulation that calls into question her fitness to counsel children and families. This slide showed screenshots from Taryn's exit strategy folder, her plans to frame me for emotional abuse, her research into maximizing her divorce settlement, and her communications with Ryan about getting rid of the extra weight. The room went silent. Mrs. Whitby planned to make false accusations of abuse to improve her divorce settlement. She researched how to manipulate the legal system and even discussed having me arrested on false charges. I clicked again. This raises serious questions about her judgment, her honesty, and her ability to provide ethical counseling to families in crisis. I could hear Taryn crying in the back row, but I wasn't done yet. Finally, I have audio recordings of Mrs. Whitby discussing her plans, provided by someone who was concerned about her behavior. I played a 30-second clip of Taryn's voice. Jared is so pathetic and boring. I can do whatever I want, and he'll never figure it out. When I'm ready to leave him, I'll make sure he loses everything. He deserves it for being such a loser. The silence that followed was deafening. Board members were staring at their papers. Audience members were whispering, and I could hear Taryn sobbing openly now. In conclusion, I said, I believe Mrs. Whitby has demonstrated a pattern of dishonesty, manipulation, and poor judgment that makes her unfit to counsel children and families. Thank you for your time. I sat down to scattered applause and the sound of Taryn's attorney whispering urgently in her ear. Mrs. Coleman cleared her throat. Mrs. Whitby, would you like to respond to these allegations? Taryn stood up shakily. I made some personal mistakes, but they don't affect my ability to do my job. I've been a good counselor for 5 years. One mistake shouldn't destroy my career. One mistake? I stood up again, even though it was out of order. Mrs. Coleman, with your permission, I'd like to clarify something. She nodded. This wasn't one mistake. According to the evidence I've gathered, Mrs. Whitby has been having affairs throughout our marriage. Ryan was just the most recent. She's been lying to me, to her employer, and to the families she counsels for years. I played another audio clip. Marriage is like prison, but at least prisoners get parole. I've been cheating on Jared since year 3, and he's too stupid to figure it out. Ryan's just the first one I actually want a future with. The board members looked physically ill. Mrs. Coleman was shaking her head slowly. Mrs. Whitby, she said, given the evidence presented tonight, the board has no choice but to terminate your employment immediately. Security will escort you from the building. Taryn collapsed back into her seat, sobbing. Beth was rubbing her back and glaring at me like this was somehow my fault. The attorney was packing up papers and probably calculating her bill, but I wasn't done with my evening's entertainment. As people filed out of the meeting room, I approached Taryn's little support group. Beth, I'm sorry your sister destroyed her own life, but she made her choices. You're a monster, Beth spat. She made one mistake and you're destroying everything. One mistake? I laughed. Your sister has been cheating on me for 5 years. She planned to have me arrested on false charges. She called me pathetic and boring while spending my money on hotel rooms with her boyfriends. Plural, Beth. Ryan wasn't the first. Beth's face went white. She turned to look at Taryn, who couldn't meet her eyes. Is that true? Beth asked quietly. Taryn's silence was answer enough. Jesus, Taryn, what is wrong with you? I left them to their family drama and walked out to the parking lot, where I found Ryan waiting by my car. He looked even worse than he had at his apartment, unshaven, wearing wrinkled clothes, and reeking of desperation. This has to stop, he said as I approached. What has to stop, Ryan? The consequences of your actions. You've destroyed my life. Sophie left me, I lost my job, my car is ruined, and now Taryn won't even talk to me. What more do you want? I want you to disappear. I want you to move to another state, change your name, and never contact my wife again. But since I can't have that, I'll settle for watching you suffer the consequences of thinking you could steal another man's wife without repercussions. I loved her, he said pathetically. No, you didn't. You loved the thrill of screwing a married woman. You loved feeling superior to the boring husband. You loved the ego boost of being chosen over someone else. I unlocked my car. But you didn't love her enough to be honest with your own fiancée, did you? Sophie was a mistake. I should have broken up with her months ago. Yeah, you should have. Just like you should have stayed away from married women. Just like you should have thought about consequences before you decided to blow up multiple lives for some good connection and an ego boost. I got in my car and rolled down the window. Here's some free advice, Ryan. Find a new town, find a new career, and find some integrity. Because if you stay here, I'll make sure everyone knows exactly what kind of man you are. As I drove home, my phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. You win. I'm leaving town. Please leave me alone. I texted back. Smart choice. Don't come back. But the real surprise was waiting for me at home. Taryn's car was in my driveway, and she was sitting on my front porch steps, looking like a broken woman. We need to talk, she said as I got out of my car. No, we really don't. We need to get divorced. Everything else is just noise. Jared, please. I know I screwed up, but we can fix this. I stopped walking and turned to look at her. Fix this? Taryn, you cheated on me for 5 years. You planned to have me arrested on false charges. You called me pathetic and boring while spending my money on your affairs. You destroyed your own career, your reputation, and our marriage. What exactly do you think we can fix? I was confused. I felt trapped. I made bad choices, but I still love you. No, you don't. You love the security I provided. You love having someone to pay the bills while you screwed around. You love having a backup plan in case your affairs didn't work out. I walked past her toward my front door. But you don't love me. If you loved me, you wouldn't have spent 5 years making a fool out of me. Where am I supposed to go? I lost my job, I have no money, and Beth says I can't stay with her anymore. I turned around one more time. That's not my problem anymore, Taryn. You're a grown woman who made grown-up choices. Now you get to live with grown-up consequences. You're really going to leave me with nothing? I'm not leaving you with nothing. You're leaving yourself with nothing. I'm just not going to pretend to be the villain in your story anymore. I went inside and locked the door behind me, leaving my cheating wife sitting on the porch of the house she'd never live in again. Through the window, I watched her sit there for another hour before finally driving away, and for the first time in months, I felt something approaching peace. The war wasn't over yet, but I was winning every battle. The divorce hearing was scheduled for a Thursday morning in Judge Patricia Hendricks's courtroom, and I arrived 45 minutes early with Jim Morrison and 3 boxes of evidence. Taryn showed up 10 minutes late with a public defender who looked like he'd rather be anywhere else on earth. Your Honor, Jim began, this is the most clear-cut case of adultery and financial deception I've seen in 20 years of family law. Mrs. Whitby conducted multiple affairs during the marriage, used marital assets to fund her infidelity, and planned to make false accusations against my client to improve her settlement. He presented the evidence methodically. Financial records showing hotel charges and restaurant bills, the complete text message history, audio recordings of Taryn discussing her plans, and the exit strategy folder that detailed her scheme to destroy my reputation. Taryn's attorney tried to argue that her personal mistakes didn't affect the division of assets, but Judge Hendricks wasn't buying it. Mrs. Whitby, the judge said, you used marital funds to conduct extramarital affairs, planned to make false accusations against your husband, and demonstrated a pattern of deception spanning several years. In light of this evidence, I'm awarding Mr. Whitby primary control of all marital assets, including the house, savings accounts, and retirement funds. Taryn burst into tears, but I felt nothing but satisfaction. Justice wasn't just blind. Sometimes it had perfect vision. Furthermore, Judge Hendricks continued, Mrs. Whitby will be responsible for her own legal fees and any debts incurred during her affairs. Mr. Whitby, you're free to proceed with the sale of any jointly owned property. Walking out of that courtroom felt like emerging from a cave into sunlight. I owned my house outright, controlled our savings, and had legal permission to rebuild my life however I wanted. But I wasn't quite done with the rebuilding project. That afternoon, Eli helped me load his truck with Ryan's belongings. Yes, belongings. It turned out that Sophie, in her post-breakup fury, had given me Ryan's apartment key and permission to redecorate his place before he came back from whatever rock he was hiding under. Are you sure this is legal? Eli asked as we carried bags of groceries into Ryan's apartment. Sophie's name is on the lease too, and she gave us permission. Plus, we're not stealing anything or breaking anything. We're just redecorating. The first stop was Ryan's refrigerator, which we filled with packages of shrimp that had been sitting in my car trunk for 3 days in 90-degree weather. The smell was indescribable, and it would be impossible to remove even after the shrimp was gone. Next, we moved to his bedroom, where we glued all of his yoga trophies and certificates to the ceiling using industrial adhesive. They'd never come down without taking chunks of plaster with them. In his living room, we rearranged his furniture into a shrine to his failures, photos of Sophie surrounded by printouts of his text messages with Taryn, with a handwritten sign that read Homewreckers Hall of Shame. But the masterpiece was the bathroom, where we used waterproof paint to write cheater in 6-inch letters across the mirror, and filled his bathtub with glitter that would take months to clean up. This is either the best revenge I've ever seen or the most elaborate crime scene, Eli said, admiring our handiwork. It's art, I replied, taking photos for posterity. Ryan wanted to be flexible, so now his living situation can be flexible too. We were loading the truck with our supplies when my phone rang. It was Mira, and she sounded frantic. Jared, you have to help me. Taryn showed up at my house this morning, demanding money and a place to stay. When I said no, she started screaming at me, calling me a terrible mother and saying this was all my fault for not supporting her. What did you tell her? I told her that I raised her better than this, and I was ashamed of what she'd done to you and your marriage. That's when she really lost it. Lost it how? She threw a plant through my front window and told the whole neighborhood that I was a heartless bitch who cared more about my son-in-law than my own daughter. Mira was crying now. The police came and everything. She's completely lost her mind. I'm sorry, Mira. I know this is hard for you. It's not your fault, honey. I've been thinking about everything that happened, and I realized I've been making excuses for Taryn's behavior for years. She's always been selfish and manipulative, but I thought she'd grow out of it. Some people never grow out of it. I want you to know that I don't blame you for any of this. You were a good husband, and she threw it away for nothing. Mira paused. I also want you to know that I've been telling everyone in the neighborhood exactly what happened. I'm not going to let her paint you as the villain when she's the one who destroyed everything. After I hung up, Eli and I finished our redecorating project and headed back to my place. But we weren't done with the day's entertainment yet. Around 6 p.m., my doorbell rang. I opened it to find Alyssa standing on my porch with a suitcase and a desperate expression. I need a favor, she said. That's interesting, considering you spent months helping my wife cheat on me. I know, and I'm sorry. But Taryn is stalking me now. She's been calling me nonstop, showing up at my apartment and telling people that I seduced you, and that's why you have the recordings. She's telling people you seduced me? She's completely delusional. She's created this whole fantasy where she's the victim and everyone else is conspiring against her. Alyssa looked exhausted. She keyed my car, Jared, and she called my boss and told him I was unstable and dangerous. What do you want me to do about it? Let me stay here for a few days while I figure out where to go. I know it's a lot to ask, but I don't have anywhere else. I considered it for about 10 seconds. No. Please, Jared. I helped you get the evidence you needed. You helped me after months of helping her. You only came forward when she turned on you. I started to close the door. Find somewhere else to hide from the monster you helped create. She's going to keep coming after both of us. We should stick together. We're not a team, Alyssa. You were her accomplice, and now you're her victim. That doesn't make us allies. I closed the door and watched through the window as she stood on my porch for a few minutes before finally walking back to her car. I almost felt sorry for her, but not quite enough to let her drag her drama into my newly peaceful house. The next morning brought the most satisfying phone call of the entire ordeal. It was Sophie, Ryan's ex-fiancée, and she sounded positively gleeful. Jared, I wanted to thank you for everything you did. Ryan came back to his apartment last night and completely lost his mind. The neighbors called the police because he was screaming so loud. I'm sorry to hear that, I lied. Don't be sorry, it was hilarious. He called me crying about the shrimp and the glitter, begging me to help him clean up. I told him to call his married girlfriend for help. How's he handling the single life? Not well. His parents found out about the affair and cut him off financially. He's been sleeping in his car because he can't afford to clean the apartment or find a new place. Sophie paused. Oh, and the best part? His yoga certification got revoked because of all the complaints from parents. Apparently sleeping with clients' wives is against their code of conduct. Who would have thought? He's talking about moving back to his hometown in Ohio, which is the best news I've heard all week. Good riddance to bad garbage. After I hung up, I sat in my kitchen drinking coffee and marveling at how quickly everything had fallen into place. Taryn had lost her job, her reputation, her friends, and her family's support. Ryan had lost his fiancée, his job, his apartment, and his certification. Alyssa had lost her best friend and was being stalked by the woman she'd helped for months. Meanwhile, I had my house, my savings, my job, and my self-respect back. The boring, predictable husband had turned out to be the only one with any sense of strategy. My phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. I know where you work. This isn't over. I smiled and forwarded the message to Jim Morrison with a note. Evidence of harassment for the restraining order. Taryn wanted to keep playing games? Fine. But she was playing against someone who'd learned all her moves and had nothing left to lose. The war was almost over, and I was ready for the final battle. The restraining order was approved on a Friday afternoon, which meant Taryn had to stay at least 500 feet away from me, my house, and my workplace. But restraining orders are just pieces of paper, and desperate people don't always respect paper. I found that out the hard way on Saturday morning when I woke up to the sound of someone pounding on my front door at 6 a.m. Through the peephole, I could see Taryn standing on my porch, and she looked like she hadn't slept in days. Her hair was unwashed, she was wearing the same clothes from the court hearing, and she had the wild-eyed look of someone who'd finally snapped completely. "Jared!" she screamed, pounding on the door. "I know you're in there. We need to talk." I grabbed my phone and started recording before I opened the door, keeping the security chain latched. "You're violating a restraining order, Taryn. You need to leave." "I'm not leaving until you fix this. You destroyed my life over one stupid mistake." 5 years of affairs isn't one mistake. It's a pattern of betrayal. I loved you. I always loved you. Ryan was just something different. It didn't mean anything. It meant enough for you to plan to leave me and take everything I owned. I was confused. I was having a midlife crisis. People make mistakes when they're confused. Through the crack in the door, I could see neighbors starting to come out of their houses to watch the show. Mrs. Patterson from across the street was recording with her phone, and the Johnsons were standing in their yard with their morning coffee, taking in the drama. "Taryn, you need to leave before I call the police." "Call them. Call everyone. I don't care anymore." She was screaming now, her voice echoing through the neighborhood. "You turned everyone against me. My own mother won't talk to me. Beth won't let me stay with her. I have nowhere to go." "That's not my problem anymore." "It is your problem. I'm your wife." "You're my soon-to-be ex-wife who cheated on me for 5 years and planned to have me arrested on false charges. We're done, Taryn. Accept it and move on." That's when she really lost it. She started kicking the door, screaming obscenities, and threatening to break every window in my house. The neighbors were definitely getting their money's worth of entertainment, and I was getting everything on video. I gave you the best years of my life," she screamed. "I could have married anyone, but I chose you. I settled for you. And I'm sure all your boyfriends appreciated the sacrifice. You're nothing without me. You're boring and pathetic, and no one will ever love you the way I did." "The way you loved me? You mean by cheating on me, lying to me, and planning to destroy my reputation? That's not love, Taryn. That's sociopathy." She picked up one of my potted plants and threw it at the door, dirt and ceramic exploding everywhere. That's when I decided the show had gone on long enough. "That's destruction of property," I said, still recording. "You just committed a crime on video in front of a dozen witnesses while violating a restraining order." I called 911 while Taryn continued her meltdown on my front porch. She was crying now, alternating between begging me to take her back and threatening to make my life hell. The police arrived within 10 minutes, and by then half the neighborhood had gathered to watch. Officer Martinez, no relation to the principal, approached Taryn calmly while his partner took my statement. "Ma'am, you're in violation of a restraining order. I need you to come with me." "He destroyed my life," Taryn screamed at the officer. "He turned everyone against me. All I did was make one mistake." "Ma'am, you need to calm down and come with me." "I won't calm down. He ruined everything. My job, my family, my friends. He took everything from me." "Actually," Mrs. Patterson called out from across the street, "you ruined everything yourself when you decided to cheat on your husband. We all heard the messages at the school board meeting. You did this to yourself." Other neighbors started chiming in, and I realized that Mira had been busy spreading the real story throughout our community. Everyone knew exactly what Taryn had done, and they weren't buying her victim act. "You're all against me," Taryn screamed. "You're all on his side because he's a man, and I'm just the cheating wife." "We're on his side because you're a liar and a cheater," called out Mr. Johnson. "Gender has nothing to do with it." Officer Martinez finally managed to get Taryn into the police car, but she wasn't done with her performance. She was screaming threats and accusations through the window, putting on a show that would be talked about in the neighborhood for years. "This is harassment," she yelled at me through the car window. "I'll sue you for everything. I'll make sure everyone knows what kind of man you really are." "They already know what kind of man I am," I called back. "I'm the kind who doesn't cheat on his wife." As the police car drove away with my ex-wife in the back seat, the neighbors started to disperse, but Mrs. Patterson walked over to me with a big smile on her face. "That was better than cable TV," she said. "I got the whole thing on video if you need it for court." "Thank you, Mrs. Patterson. I appreciate the support." "Honey, we all knew something was wrong when she started coming home at weird hours and acting all secretive. We just didn't want to get involved in your business." She patted my arm. "But after what she put you through, and the way she's been acting since it all came out, you're better off without her." The rest of the weekend was blissfully quiet. Taryn spent Saturday night in jail for violating the restraining order, and I spent it cleaning up the mess she'd made on my porch and enjoying the peace of a house that was finally mine alone. Monday morning brought a call from Jim Morrison with the best news I'd heard in months. The judge reviewed the video of Saturday's incident and Taryn's arrest record. She's agreed to fast-track the divorce and grant you everything you asked for. Taryn's attorney is recommending she accept the settlement rather than drag this out any further. What's the settlement? You keep the house, the savings, your retirement accounts, and your car. She gets her personal belongings and whatever debt she's accumulated since the separation. Oh, and she has to pay your legal fees. When can we finalize it? Next Friday. After that, you'll be a free man. That afternoon, I got a call from Principal Martinez at Roosevelt Elementary. Mr. Whitby, I wanted to let you know that Mrs. Whitby's termination is now official. The board voted unanimously to dismiss her for professional misconduct. Her teaching certification is also under review by the state board. I appreciate you letting me know. I also wanted to apologize for not recognizing the signs earlier. In hindsight, there were red flags we should have caught. You can't monitor your employees' personal lives. She was good at hiding what she was doing. Still, we should have been more vigilant. On a related note, we've had several parents ask about you. Apparently word has gotten out about how you handled this situation, and there's a lot of respect for the way you conducted yourself. I just tried to tell the truth and let the consequences fall where they belonged. Well, if you ever decide to change careers, I think you'd make an excellent counselor. You certainly understand how to deal with difficult people. The final divorce hearing was anticlimactic compared to everything that had led up to it. Taryn showed up with her public defender, signed the papers without making eye contact, and walked out of my life forever. No drama, no last-minute pleas, no threats, just a signature that ended 8 years of marriage and 5 years of betrayal. As I walked out of the courthouse, I felt something I hadn't experienced in years. Complete and total freedom. No more wondering where my wife was or who she was with. No more pretending everything was fine while my marriage crumbled around me. No more being the boring, predictable husband who was too stupid to see what was right in front of him. I drove home to my house, and sat on my front porch with a beer, watching the sun set over a neighborhood where everyone knew my story and respected how I'd handled it. My phone was quiet, my conscience was clear, and my future was entirely my own.